Okay, welcome all. Sorry, the folks in the room are in the back with me. Couldn't figure out a better way to do this.
Yeah, how many more are in front or in back?
Okay, welcome to the, wow, how is it 2+ years since we've had an in-person meeting? And
closer to 3.5. It was February. The last meeting was like February of 2020.
okay,
In person.
so this, and I got to attest that Mark called it exactly right. This is an ideal situation for a hybrid meeting. This is the best one I've ever seen.
We got a little bit of equipment glitchiness, but other than that, it's really a sweet.
Hey, by the time I walked in,
it was,
yeah, it is. It is, and we can see you guys great. Welcome, and this is the first official meeting of the new Ussifers. I am the Presidente, Art.
Art's on Zoom.
Art's on Zoom. He'd be our Vice President. Mark, you are the Treasurer, and Rob is the Secretary. So let's see. First things first, Mark, are we solvent as a group?
Yeah, I didn't get through and make a summary of what we did over the summer, but I spent about $12.50 today buying us a can of coffee. So when everybody shows up, if you throw a quarter or something in the coffee fund, it'll perpetuate itself. The club, both clubs don't need to be paying for it, but if everybody throws a quarter in, it'll offset most of it.
Let's see, any other old business lingering? Okay. As everybody knows who read the email from Steve Magnuson, Steve is departing to Anacortes in the near future. And one of the things that he wanted to hand off was a Kenwood TMV71A radio, which the digital group bought for his experimentation in software development. He wants to rid himself of that. I will take possession of that radio for the time being. No reason to make any decisions about it. It is an asset. So I just don't want it thought that it got forgotten. So that radio will be in my possession until we decide what to do with it, including donating.
ACS puts in a bid for it.
Okay. You guys have a need? I'm just curious what the need is.
It would allow us to remotely control our connections, because it's actually, we can talk to it. But the radio we're using right now is a ICOM 2820H, and there is no interface.
Are there any objections in the assembled group to loaning the digital group's D71A to Ferndale ACS? Hearing none, we will make it happen.
Yeah, so I think that's a great deal, and I like the way that you stated it, Steve, that let's loan it to them. If down the road we see a different kind of need, we can come back and renegotiate and reevaluate it. But there's no reason it should be sitting on a shelf somewhere when obviously they can use it. And I'm assuming it's got the cables they need. We'd have to check with Steve on that.
I'm guessing not, because Steve had a previous D710A, which uses the identical cables. So those are probably his cables, but we can certainly make that happen as part of the deal.
Well, maybe Ferndale can.
Yeah,
we can
or maybe
engage.
Ferndale can.
Yeah.
Okay, so within the week, I will pick up the radio from Steve and somehow get it to Ferndale ACS. Galen, do you want to accept it on behalf of Ferndale ACS?
Well, Dave and Randy are also right behind you, so either one of those,
That's
whoever's
true.
most convenient for you, Steve.
Okay. Well, I always look for an excuse to visit Randy, so I'll do that.
Okay.
Randy always has cool projects going. Are you willing to accept that radio? Okay. Randy says yes. Deal. Okay. That was really the only old business I had. And I apologize, guys. It's been a week. My daughter's been married barely 2 weeks. We just got back from another trip to Portland. Yeah. So I get to see my office 3 days out of every 2 weeks. So, and we're starting to settle in. So October will be a breeze compared to this. So, any other folks want to talk about anything before we get into the main topic of the meeting, which is solar power, ably demonstrated in this dark room?
Definitely no sun today.
Going once, going twice. Okay, Mark, are you able to swing the camera to pick up the? Oh, I'm sorry, Bud. You've got a video, right? Do you want to lead with that? Muted.
I'm muted. I gotta unmute. I have some disjointed stuff here. Steve, it's not really a formal presentation, but why don't I bounce through, let me do a screen share and bounce through a few things that I have here. Bear in mind, like I said, I didn't try to put together a formal presentation. I just want to throw some stuff out there and maybe raise some awareness. So I'll set this up and you should be looking at my screen.
Yepper.
Okay, so several months ago, I came up with the idea that I wanted to get some sort of a battery pack to provide the power to my Go kit. And I started doing a bunch of research. And as you will recall, I once built an electric Volkswagen. I had battery-powered Volkswagen, and I messed around with lithium iron phosphate cells and built a car, which I've since sold to somebody on Orcas Island. But so I'm out there looking again for battery packs, and I'm leaning towards the whole notion of lithium. And so I was just searching for stuff about these battery packs, and there's dozens of them out there that you can choose from. And what I discovered when I was doing the research to make my purchase was that you could just about figure that you're going to spend $1 per watt hour of storage. So if you want a if you're going to buy a 250 watt hour battery pack, you're going to spend around $250. You want a 500 watt hour battery pack, it's going to be about $500. And so I was looking around at them, and I ended up, and we'll see it here, it's in the room there aside from you there. I went with a 1024 watt hour battery pack from a company called Ecoflow, and it was $9.99. And I thought, am I really going to do that? Because what I was really looking at was, I was looking at these Jackery batteries, these guys right here. And I was looking at one that was going to be around $600 or so. This is their 550 watt hour battery pack, and they're available from Harbor Freight, and they're kind of nice. And so again, the price is just right about in that neighborhood. But my son-in-law said that he'd done some research and said that, you know, you really need to look at something that's being made by a company called Ecoflow. Now, I think all of these are good for sure, but this is what I ended up going with. And the thing that cinched the deal for me was that the battery pack included at no additional charge a $400 solar panel, which I think Steve has in the room. You can look at it. It's got this little case that it folds up and fits in, and the case can be opened up and becomes a stand to hold it for you. Set it on the ground, pointed at the sun, and get the angle you want. And then this part over here unfolds. There's 4 panels, so it just flops out and unfolds. And it's got a charging cable. I think this is the charging cable for AC, and boy, does it charge fast. I gave the thing to Steve after we had it out at Salmon Run, and it was at 30% charge after we got back from Salmon Run. I plugged it in, and 20 minutes later, it was fully charged. It was pulling over 1,000 watts out of the wall into this battery pack. It charged up real fast. There's another charger here that you can use so you can charge it off of in your car, you know, the cigarette lighter. And then they give you a cable so that you can plug it into solar panels. And then after I buy the darn thing, I see the whole thing comes on the market and it's $200 cheaper. And I go, oh, wow, that's kind of nice, but I bet it doesn't include the solar panel, but it did. So that's good for somebody else. However, it has a Bluetooth connection, and there's an free app that you put on your phone that allows you to completely control this thing with your phone, see what it's doing, what's going in, what's going out, turn things on and off. And when you look at it, there's a mess of connections here. There's many USB ports, all the various flavors of USB, so you can use it to charge devices and run devices. There's multiple 110 volt outlets so that you can plug anything into it. And then on the back, there is another socket for like a cigar or a cigarette lighter that we use to run the radio that I was running the radio at home, and we used it at Salmon Run. And then in addition to that, there's 2 of those standard DC cylindrical barrel jacks where you just, you take the little round plug and plug it in, and you can run various devices with that. There's 2 of those. So it's great. And so you can charge it with shore power. You can charge it with solar power. You can charge it with a 12 volt battery out of your car. Seems like there's a 4th way that's escaping me. But anyway, I went with that, and that's what we got there. When you're looking at these batteries and they talk about it being lithium, I'm always a little annoyed that they don't tell you the rest of the chemistry. When you have a lithium battery, there's something else going on in there, and you want to know about it. And so I'm going to post this URL in the chat room here in just a minute, but it's a place where you could go look and see what's going on with the various chemistries. Now, the chemistry that I'm using is lithium iron phosphate. And that's the one I recommend. If you're going to go out and get one of these things, that I strongly recommend that you go with the iron phosphate for various reasons. For one, it's the safest one you can get. Personally, and I know I'm biased, and I might not understand all I know about it, but I would avoid anything that has the word oxide in it. So like if you go with cobalt oxide, the problem with cobalt oxide is that if you get a thermal runaway, it starts producing oxygen and it will set itself on fire. And you cannot put that fire out because it's generating its own oxygen. It will burn underwater. And Boeing stuck these on airplanes, which I think is a mistake.
In a big iron box,
Yeah, but still,
which made it a bomb.
yeah, you can't smother it. The only way you can put that fire out is to lower the temperature. So cobalt oxide is an option, and those were very common. That's what we were seeing in cell phones and laptop batteries. And remember when laptops were spontaneously catching on fire? Now they're doing a lot better job now, and that's way less likely to happen. But it would never have happened with iron phosphate. And then there's other chemistries such as magnesium. There's that word oxide again. And do you know about magnesium flares and how flammable magnesium is? And then you have, so again, we have lithium, nickel, magnesium, cobalt. Come on, we got oxide and magnesium. And then the list goes on. And I, like I said, I'll just toss this into the chat room, and you can read it and do your own research on what's going on there. So I recommend that you go with the lithium iron phosphate. One of the other advantages of the lithium iron phosphate is that the cycles are nearly twice what they are for the other chemistries. And you're going to read about, oh, such and such a battery is good for 10 years, or it's good for how many years, or whatever. It has nothing to do with the number of years, okay? It has to do with the number of times you discharge it and recharge it. So the batteries in my car lasted like 9 or 10 years. And when I sold the car, I told the guy, you need to replace the batteries. They were gone. And he knew that. That was okay. But I got 10 years worth of use out of them. When you go to these other batteries, it might be half as much. So they're talking, so you'll read in the specs about the number of charge cycles. And we're talking here with lithium iron phosphate, 2,000 to 3,000 cycles. You move to the other chemistries, and you're going to see it's going to say something like 700 or 800 cycles. And then if you go to something like lead acid or gel or some of the non-lithium options for your batteries, it's even way less than that, considerably less than that. So one of the things that you might consider is when you look at the price and you go, oh wow, that's a lot of money to spend on a battery pack. In the long run, when you look at the whole picture, it's actually cheaper because you're not going to have to throw them out and replace them in 5 years or 4 years or 3 years. So, yeah, it's more money up front, but it's going to be cheaper in the long run. So that's what I had from this end. What else, Steve, would
Bud, can you go back onto Amazon?
what is it you wanted to see?
I wanted you to bring up for the good of the order, the one that I'm going to be showing off.
Go ahead and talk and I'll bring it up.
Yeah, it's a Echo Bravo 3 Alpha. That's the model that I'm showing off here tonight. And mine is a lightweight compared to Bud's, but Bud's system costs him roughly $1,000, and with the panels, and mine was, I believe it was 300 when I bought it. It's now 209.
Yeah, I
And
got it.
it's okay.
Oh, come on.
And I bought the solar panel that I'm using at Costco for $100, and it's a 100-watt panel with a rigid frame, so it can be mounted. Yeah, okay, so there's the EB3A. This is mine. That's interesting. That's a different version that I actually, no, I guess that's right.
Looks about the same.
Yeah, but notice
So-
again, Steve. So it's a 268 watt hour battery pack, which is a lot. I mean, if you just, it depends on what you're doing. When you're transmitting, you're pulling more power out. But most of what we do is receiving, and there it is at $200. And that's a good price,
Right.
down from $299.
And it's lightweight enough. It will not kill you to carry it. It also has the ability to charge from a 12-volt supply, like a car, through the solar port. It has a solar port, MPPT solar panel port, and you can also charge it with AC. And this one will operate in UPS mode if you keep it charged, if you keep it plugged into the mains or solar or another 12-volt source. The only downside is it sounds like a turbine winding up when the charger goes on, and it tops it off every 5 minutes or so. It just, the fan runs up and then runs for a while and turns off.
Did you ever test it near any radio gear?
I have not. That, well,
Bud's,
yes.
Bud's is noisy.
Yeah, VHF, it does. I've only used it for VHF and UHF, so I haven't tried it on HF yet. So, and one of them just turned themselves.
Yeah, and so,
Yeah. So
the Delta 2 will also, they claim that it's emergency backup, but on some of the YouTube videos that I found where people have tested it, what they found is that the switching time is on mine, the switching time is too great. And so if you're running a computer and the power goes out and this thing comes on to take over, it's too late. Your computer's down. But maybe on yours, it might. I think I read on one of the specs on yours, it was like 30 milliseconds to switch over.
yeah, and so the other thing is, the last time I bought a battery for my shack was a common name is gel cell. It's basically a lead acid battery with a gel. I can't remember the fancier name, but basically it doesn't, when it's charging, it doesn't outgas like a lead acid or a deep cycle marine battery would. The trouble is that thing, when I bought it, it was on the order of like $125. And this now at 209, this is a better way to go for your shack power. You know, even if you got to manually switch it over and you've got this sitting by. Another thing I really love about this is this sucker does not self-discharge. I turned it on after not touching it for more than a month, and it was 100%. Then I plugged in the solar panel and it immediately, maintained.
Yeah, Steve, that's another advantage of going with the iron phosphate chemistry. It doesn't, it holds that charge. It'll hold that charge for months.
Yep. So my experiment, equivalent to Bud's, was that on field day, I did not have the day plus to devote to field day, but I did have a few hours. So I took my whole system out into the yard and I hooked up my Starlink dish and I called it Meadow Day. And I started doing video calls all around the country. Bud was one of them. I still haven't written it up yet, but soon. And it worked just fine. The panel was basically keep it, it was not a bright day, but the panel was keeping the unit topped off basically in equivalent. If I hadn't had to charge my laptop, it would have stayed ahead of it. It would have actually charged up. The Starlink dish was not pulling that much power. So, and it was on AC, so, which is less efficient. So these things are a fantastic deal now with, you know, just to have in your house. My previous favorite emergency AC supply was a couple of adapters that go in my cordless power tools. And those were nice because they were small and light, and they would keep things small load going, like a cell phone charger or whatever, even my CPAP for a while. This thing, much better. In fact, now that it's down, I'm going to buy a second one. They're just handy to have. One for the shack and one for the house.
Question, Bud, how much power was left after field day? Because we
Okay,
used my
yeah,
radio
when we got home, I looked at the thing. I was gonna take the battery to Steve so he could bring it to tonight's meeting. And I looked at it and we were down to 33%. I have it programmed to shut off at 20%. We'll talk about that again in a minute. But so it was at 33%. I said, you know, he's going to take that into the meeting. We need to get this thing up. And so I went ahead and plugged it into shore power. And all of a sudden, the dial on the front of the thing said it was sucking in over 1,000 watts off of a 15 amp wall socket. And it told me that it would be fully charged in 20 minutes. And it did it. Now, when I say fully charged, I also have it programmed to shut the charger off when it gets to 90%. And I have the ability to do that with the Delta 2. We can see what's going on with Steve's, but the idea is that if you do not fully charge a lithium iron phosphide battery and you do not fully discharge it, you can double the lifespan of that battery. You know, you could go to 100%, you can drop it down to a 0%, but your battery is going to suffer from going to the extremes. So you go in with the app on your phone and you set they've recommended the 20% and the 90%. I think they recommended 80%, but I knew that 90% would be okay. And because I was charging it off of the solar panels, I was rarely seeing 90%, but I did on nice sunny days. I ran it out in my shop, connected to a Yaesu radio, and my Nexus board was running off of it, plugged into the USB connector, and I was able to run my digital station for 5, 6, 7 days in a row, with it dialing in, or connecting rather, to the RMS gateway in Blaine over VHF once every hour. So every hour it went and checked for mail. Sometimes there was mail, most time there wasn't. So when it was sitting there, just the radio running and the Nexus board with the Raspberry Pi running, I was drawing 2 watts. When it started transmitting, I was jumping to like 40, 45 watts. But I'm not transmitting very long. With the RMS gateway, you're on and you're off. And depending on what's going on, if you're downloading messages, most of the time is being spent receiving. And very little of that time is being spent transmitting, which is the big consumption. If I turn my Scepter monitor on, the output jumped to over 20 watts. The monitor sucked a bunch out of it, but I didn't need to run it. And I'm running that whole thing remotely from inside the house anyway. So all is well. However, when I pulled the Yaesu out of the mix and replaced it with a Kenwood the 71A, it went, I can't remember. It went from 20 amps to 30 amps. I mean, 20 watts to 30 watts. Oh no, it went from the 5 watts to 10 watts. It doubled. Basically, it doubled. The Kenwood draws twice as much twice as much power as the Yaesu did. But it's still the solar power, which was just I had the panels just thrown up on my roof, facing west. So there was no sun on those panels at all until nearly 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And so, and then when the sun would go down, and there's a big tree that throws a couple hours of shade on it during the afternoon. So it kept running until one Sunday morning at 9 o'clock in the morning. Of course, there's no sun on the panels. We get on the air and we start running our watering hole thing on FSQ, where I was doing a bunch of transmitting. And all of a sudden, poof, I was gone. I was off the air. I no longer had a connection to the Raspberry Pi. It just disappeared. And so I went out to see what was going on, and I had sucked the capacity of the battery down to 20%, and it just shut itself off, which is what it's supposed to do. I'm a little annoyed with the fact that if that battery pack reaches its lower limit and shuts itself down, the sun comes around and recharges the battery, it does not turn it back on. You have to go over and push a button on the back and say, I want 12 volts, and turn it back on once you're up over 20% again. That was a disappointment. But so,
Bud, does the app, can you turn it on with the app? Because with mine,
Yes.
you can't.
yes, I could. Yeah.
So, Bud, I got a quick question. I've been doing a lot of research on the lithium battery packs and stuff like that as well. And in the case that I've been running into, I've been looking at a lot bigger packs. And one of the things that I've run into a lot is they said that these batteries will phase out due to calendar aging well before cycle aging. Have you run into that?
I haven't read anything like that.
So what I've seen a lot in the stuff in the research, and I just got done purchasing a 5,000 watt system that's going to get deployed in another application. And yeah, they said run them to 100 and run them down to 0. Most devices won't run down to 0. They'll go down to 3. But the capacity is there. Use it. It's available to you. Calendar aging will kill the lithium batteries
what's the
cycle.
chemistry, Andy? What was
Same as what you described.
lithium
Yeah,
iron phosphate?
correct. Yep.
Okay.
And so the pack I bought was like I said, it was a 5,000 watt hour pack. So it was Signature Solar sold it. It's a big rack mount 48 volt system in this particular instance. But yeah, they said run it to max and run it down as low as you can. The capabilities there, use it.
Okay. Well, that contradicts everything that I've read about running it clear to the max.
I think it depends on
shortens the life.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, it depends on your cycles, right? So
Yeah.
if you're going to cycle it aggressively a lot, so be it. But I can't imagine anybody in this group or in this audience having the capability to put that much usage into a battery pack.
But I agree. When I was looking, so on that display, it'll tell you, how many hours you can expect to run the whatever devices you have hooked up in this state, in this condition. And I'm looking at 72 hours. So this is going to run my station for 72 hours, but that's not when I'm transmitting. When I'm transmitting, it drops down to like 24, 26 hours. but that's transmitting for only what 10 seconds or so out of every hour.
Yeah, our usage, yeah, in our particular circumstance is very dynamic, right? Yeah, if you had a static pole, that would be one thing, but yeah, with what we do with radio, it's hard to get an accurate calculation.
Yeah, and in my situation, I'm working on trying to get a better. Uh, I need to face the sun as opposed to facing west, and then I got to wait for the sun to climb over the top of the roof of the shop before it even thinks about lighting up the panel, and all of those things plus a cloudy, rainy day, and then the activity of a Sunday morning net from 9 in the morning till 10 o'clock in the morning before the sun even gets near my panel. I agree with you, Andy. For what we might be doing, these things would really run your station for a long time. I think that the one that Steve Stroh has there is more than adequate. Um, and I was thinking more in terms of I live 12 feet above sea level, right? There will come a day, I'm afraid, when I have to load everything up and get the heck out of here. And I want to be able to keep a station that that I can put on the air. So I went with well, I went with one twice the size that I thought I was going to get because I could get a free solar panel with it, and I said, "What the heck? Let's just do it." But you're right.
Yours,
If this is going to be part of somebody's Go kit, these battery packs will keep you on the air for a long time. Especially, I know Ed has solar panels, and I think that Steve, are there other people in the room that have stuff to show?
Ed has a controller, but that's, I think, it. It's just us two, Bud, so we planned well.
Okay.
So how about, are you able to pan the camera to over here?
While they're figuring out the camera, I posted a link to Bioenno. They make a lithium iron phosphate battery, and they have quite a bit of information on there. One of the points that they had was it allows for extraction of 80 to 90% of rated capacity. So I wouldn't go beyond 90% personally, but the service life they say is about a 2,000 plus charge cycle. So they're really good batteries. They have a few other different series on there, but yeah, when I want to read up on lithium iron phosphate, I go there. They sell just the batteries as well and all the other stuff with it.
Okay, can you see me on Mark's portable camera?
Yeah, we see you, Steve. The audio is not as good as it was, but
Sorry? That's easy to fix.
yeah,
all better now. Okay.
yeah.
So, all right. So this is my system. This is a 100-watt solar panel that I bought at Costco for roughly, it was $100, I believe. So it came with the leads and a little bit of a kit, and then we terminated it with the proper leads cable. And this is my Bluetti EB3A.
We haven't been seeing any of the detail.
I just moved over to his camera, which is not focused. So we'll see if he can get the focus to occur.
So to be clear, it's not that it's not focused. He's got the shading on, so it only shows the person's face and it shades out the background. So that's the background feature needs to be turned off.
There we go. No, that's the face.
Yeah, it's just it's in the settings. That's an easy adjustment.
That camera zoom settings.
Yep, that was disturbing.
Yeah, Mark, that's the way
There
you
it is.
normally run your Zoom with the background. There we go. Looks good now.
All right. So again, this is my solar panel. It's about, I don't know, roughly 7-8 pounds, easily carryable. It's got an aluminum frame on it.
Before roughly.
Yep. And this is my Bluetti EB3A. And it's pretty light. It's maybe 5 pounds, you know, easily lifted with a finger. So it's a very simple system and it works. So I didn't bring my cable, but I have a cable with 4 power poles, outlet. Here's the AC in. And you can put, again, just like Bud, you can put 12 volts straight into the MPPT charging port. 2 AC, and that's it. Mine is relatively simple. So this is Bud's, which I think is really sexy. And I believe he said that this is around $100 if you buy it. It folds up. It's got grommets that you could hang it from. Bud claimed he zip tied it to something. And again, here's the charging port, simple cables. And this is Bud's. Now, one cool thing about Bud's is that if you're going to use it in a stationary application, you can buy a second battery, plug it in here. The battery is literally just a battery. There's no intelligence in it at all, just the unit. All the work is done by this unit. And I have no idea how much cheaper it is. So then there's the back end here. So Bud thought to bring his power pole adapter. These are the 2 barrel connectors he was describing. Smaller AC loads, 6, and the AC input, and this is the MPPT port. So, and it is barely a one-hand operation to pick it up. And again, the display. So, yeah. Rob?
Yeah, those can have the option of charge off the vehicle, right?
Right, that was the
So-
the MPPT port will take straight 12 volts.
Okay.
Does not have to be a solar panel.
So I noticed that there's a few of them out there. If you're not looking carefully, they need something more than like 13.8 volts to charge because of the difference.
I believe
But-
because of the
I was like,
MPPT.
why would you design something like that? That doesn't make sense.
I think it's because the M multi-point tracking something.
MPPT, yeah.
The MPPT port expects a variable voltage coming off of the solar panel that it just handled it.
Yeah, maybe I'm just talking about the older
Yes,
technologies. Yeah,
Yes.
I forget what the other one, the cheap one that's still available out there, but yeah, not by much though.
The only problem we had during Salmon run was that using Bud's battery was great. It had all the power we needed, but every time we had it hooked up to the charger, it had a lot of interference. So we had to end up disconnecting the charger.
That was on HF.
But that was on HF.
Ed, why don't you show and tell yours?
This one? Well, with motorhomes, sky's the limit on what you can get. Of course, everybody kind of knows that. But I use a portable system here from a company called Windy Nation. Let me get this on clip.
I think we lost the audio.
It looks like we lost the audio. What happened to us? Oh, it looks like Mark has muted himself accidentally.
There.
Okay.
Stop pressing the mute button.
Sorry, I thought it was just muting the individual units.
No, yeah, it's
It kills the
yeah.
system.
every one of them. Yeah, okay, that's interesting.
Oh yeah, the mics have a mute on them.
Anyway, I've got plugs for 3 of those 100-watt solar panels that I run off it, so it has plenty of power for charging my batteries either on the Jeep or the motorhome. And with the extra cables, I can put the solar panels out anywhere around in an area around the motorhome and stuff to get the whatever sun I have in case we're parked in the shade. The whole thing comes with a little tiny instruction book with micro printing, so I scanned it and made it bigger. So when it's running, it'll give you all kinds of good information, and it's got a little smiley face on it when it's all running just fine. It'll give you a smiley face.
What's the brand name of the electronics?
Windy Nation. Get my glasses on here.
There we go.
So if you kind of,
Where'd you buy it, Ed?
it was online, but it'll cycle through and tell you all these different things here. It'll tell you what the load is, and then the battery temperature, solar output, current in the amps, the load current, the PV generator, something like that.
Amp hours.
Yeah. Load discharge, low voltage, another low voltage,
Disconnect and reconnect.
reconnect. Okay, disconnect and a reconnect, over voltage, and a load timer control. So it'll give you all that. But yeah, nice part is it gives you the little smiley face on there, which works good. So anyway, yeah, like I was saying, with the motorhomes, the sky's the limit. But I like this because then I can charge in, plug into these 12-volt cigarette ports here.
So does this figure out what the chemistry is, or doesn't it care?
It just goes on the house batteries, whatever batteries you want.
It's just dumping raw 12 volts in, just like you would if from an alternator.
From a charger, yeah.
Okay.
So it just hooks up to whatever batteries you want to hook it up to. I guess that's about it.
Does it tell you what the state of charge of the battery is?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
All the cycles there, it tells you what it is there.
Well, it has to be able to determine what type of battery to give it this certain type of charge.
The alternator doesn't care; it just pumps out 12 volts.
Well,
It's the assumption is that you're going to replace the battery after a year, whether a couple of years.
It runs 13.8 volts for charging.
Yeah, we're used to smart batteries, and remember that most of the batteries out there aren't smart. Very cool.
What was that? Sound like a kid.
frustrated dog, kid.
Oh my God.
Okay. Going around the room again. Rob, got anything? How's the website coming?
It's there. Right now, I've got a lot of.
Go ahead and put it back up to the overhead station 46 room.
Good.
Take my laptop off the spotlight.
Before we make everyone at home sick.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, the website's trudging along. I'm probably gonna put something up here. It's muted.
I got it.
Okay. Yeah, probably put something up in the next few days. I'm not gonna give you the URL yet, because right now it's just a test site. And the graphics will not be fancy at all at first. So just look at the content when I send the link out to everybody for testing, not for live use. And then hopefully I'll get some feedback from everybody and tweak it as necessary. And then I'll throw the pretty graphics on there. And then eventually, hopefully, within a month, I'm hoping before I leave for Arizona, put it live and then just add to it as we go along. And because I can't just do everything at once because there's so much stuff that I'd like to add, but it's almost overwhelming for me right now. So I'm just trying to do one chunk at a time.
Great.
And just information stuff right now. I'm putting together like tables for, the phonetic alphabet and, just basic stuff like that. And I'm building some JavaScript stuff for calculations on frequencies and whatnot.
Cool.
Anyhow, yeah, so that's all I got.
Anyone else?
Well, maybe we could get, probably Mark to talk about Salmon Run, because many of us were there. He did some compiling of numbers and counts and stuff. And it was an interesting weekend, or a lot of cool stuff happened, aside from the fact that we broke the the Blaine comm van. Again, it was batteries that failed. And we ended up having to switch over to our tailgaters, who were also running radios on the field. And it was a lot of fun. But are you prepared, Mark, to maybe report on the numbers?
Mark, you know how to switch the camera? Do you?
Well, I'm not going to mess with trying to do that. Like a fat fingers will
Yeah.
make it all go dead. We compiled everybody's sheets, or I compiled everybody's sheets and put it together. We had something like 28 of the counties out of the 39, the hard ones that are always hard to get: Adams, Columbia, Douglas, Lincoln, Mason, Pendle. How do you say it?
Honduray.
Yeah, whatever. San Juan for some reason didn't get picked. Stevens, Thurston, we didn't get, but we got all the rest of them. We had 91 contacts. Now, with all of the issues and all of the problem, there was so much noise on the HF radio in the comm van that you almost couldn't pull somebody out of the noise. It was just horrible. And I think that had an issue with, like, maybe their inverter going off of the or whatever, their power system as it was beginning to fail there. And then when we switched over to Dave, it was a lot. You worked it out so it was quieter.
Yeah, we disconnected the
the panels.
the solar panel.
Okay, so when you get it down to where we basically had one station going all day and everybody was having a good time talking, we weren't like, and we were having a fun time. That was what we were there for. We weren't contesting. And then Ed had his radio, but he was having a good time visiting more than he was working it. So that's all. It's all good. We had a fun time. I brought my dog back out. I went home for a little bit and then brought the dog back out with me. Bud said that it was fun to watch. I don't know. He was being an ornery little stink every time he saw another dog. So, but other than that, it was a good time.
This was held where?
Blaine Marine Park, where we held Winter Field Day last year, and where they went for Field Day this year, I think.
And nobody tried to make a break for the border?
No.
You're a good swimmer.
No.
Actually, the tide was out far enough you could have
Oh,
walked.
yeah. Mud walking.
Gee, I don't know. That's about it. Nobody wanted to stay late or overnight and on Saturday night, so we picked up about 7:30. We were done.
So this bodes well for potentially trying Winter Field Day again. I mean, the venue works out. They're comfortable with us now. Right?
It works. It does get a little breezy and cold out there if the wind's blowing, but because there's nothing really blocking it. But other than that, yeah, we could do Winter Field Day there again, probably.
Cool.
Unless we want to go to another spot, but
I think that's a lot of that spot's a lot of fun.
I think that'd be a good. Well, you got the water right there, so if anything's going to help the propagation, high moisture content in the soil and the water,
yep.
And it's flat for a long ways before it starts really gaining any elevation, so we can get out pretty good there. So, sure, we'll go for it.
Anybody on the Zoom have any other interesting things to share? Had some entertainment at the front of the room under the camera.
That's because Rob was tracking me.
Ah,
Tracking with the camera.
okay. So, not bad. We're doing good. So, again, this venue works out there. For those of you who weren't sure about the venue, there's plenty of room to spread out. We don't have to be concentrated. What, 20 plus people easily? 25, 30 maybe?
More like seats for 40.
Okay, if I stand correct.
Possibly expandable out to about 60.
You got a sign saying maximum.
Well,
They don't have one here.
those
The fire
those,
marshal didn't come out and say so.
Only fault is they've got sprinklers in the roof with plugs in the floor.
The plug in the floor, the plate, and I mentioned that. And they're like, oh, yeah.
and there's plenty of table space, so this would be an ideal venue for some of the other activities that we've thought about, like a DMR plug fest or programming fest. We'd probably want to protect the tables a little bit if we had a soldering party and, keep solder off of the nice carpet. But this is a wonderful venue, and kudos, Mark, for finding it and doing all the legwork. So
Some sheets of 8-inch cardboard would work real good for table protectors.
yeah. So good job, man.
I think it's awesome.
I agree.
And we have a
This-
coffee maker.
and how long do we have the room for? I mean, how long can we stay?
Okay, we are here on a trial basis. If we don't work out from their end, we'll get the boot. If we don't like it from our end, we can move on. No hurt feelings. Everybody, we're on a trial basis. We've got most of the bugs worked out now. They're starting to smooth out. The camera was better tonight, wasn't it, Bud?
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got most of the issues worked out, and so if it continues and everything's going great, I can see us staying the year if they're up for it.
I meant how late into the evening?
Oh, we're supposed to be out of here about 9.
Great. That's
And I can get here. I got here tonight just before 6, right at 6.
Oh, and as an incentive for the virtual guys to show up, there were homemade cookies, chocolate chip cookies tonight. So
To go with the coffee.
that's to go with the coffee. So
It's usually standard with all of our meetings.
this is true.
What, the cookies?
Cookies. Yeah.
The homemade?
Well, cookies.
I could throw together a virtual JavaScript app that
Oh, gives them credit.
Okay, virtual cookies would be cool.
those that don't want to show up.
The cost would be really expensive on those though.
Okay. Well, there's nothing else keeping us here. Then I'd say let's call it for the evening, and we will see you all again next meeting, third Tuesday of third Tuesday of every month. And MBARC is meeting here also, right?
Yes.
Okay. So second Tuesday for MBARC meetings.
The new president back there.
Sure. Going to bail on us. So, okay. Well, thanks all. I call the meeting to close. Thanks. 7-3 all.
They can talk or you don't have to.
Now if they just get beer.
Yeah.
I'm not there. I'm leaving